Welcome. In front of me I have the brand new Nothing Phone 1, and today I'll go over unboxing of this product and just a quick overview of it. Now, I'll be honest, I am quite excited about this, considering that OnePlus went completely downhill. This is what I would expect to be like the new substitute for it, considering it's, I think, co-founded by the same person who co-founded OnePlus. So yeah, kind of excited about it. Now, is there a foil on here? Nope, there isn't. So, okay, so it looks like we just unpack it by probably pulling on here. Not necessarily the best unpacking experience. It's most certainly unique, but this sticker doesn't really help. There we go. So this just comes off. We got our phone right here, and I guess accessories right here. Now obviously, based on the size of this, you can probably guess there is no charger. Okay, so that's basically all we have in here. Now, might not be the biggest fan of the packaging right here, but it's just packaging, and honestly it is unique, side-catching, and a little bit different than what I'm used to, so it's still refreshing even though I don't like it. Now, in here we get a cable, so just a typical Type-C to Type-C. Hopefully you have a Type-C charger, or at least a Type-C cable with a charger. Then we get a SIM ejector with a little bit of a touch to it. Nice. It's a subtle thing, but I do have to say I really like it. It looks really nice. And just paperwork. So I'm gonna eat that to the side. Now let's get a look at the phone. Okay, just rip it apart. There we go. Already made some fingerprints on it, but doesn't matter. Let's turn it on. Come on. There we go. Nothing. Powered by Android. Okay, so while this is turning on, I'm gonna quickly go over the screen right here. So this is 6.5 inch. No way that this is just 6.5. This feels massive for a 6.5 inch display. It's a 1080p by 2400. It's an OLED display with 1 billion colors, 120 Hz refresh rate, HDR10 plus, typical brightness of 500 nits, and what is that? What's the setup? And peak brightness of about 1200 nits. So it's a really good display by all means. And let's quickly go through the setup. Now the AMOLED right here throughout the setup looks so good, because it's an not AMOLED, OLED display. Pixels that are completely black are actually turned off, so they don't emit any kind of light, so they kind of blend with the actual bezels, and it looks really nice as a initial setup. So let's quickly go through it. It looks like a relatively stock Android right now, at least to the setup, with just a couple touches like their font, as you can see, which I do have to say I like it. Considering it's just a font, it looks neat. Now on the home screen, again, relatively stock Android. Pull down the notifications. I don't think this is stuck, but I might be wrong. Maybe it's like a newer version. Let's see the settings. Looks quite stuck. I mean, obviously you have, again, like I said, the touches of like fonts and stuff like that, but looks pretty good. No bloatware that I can see. Like, none whatsoever. Nice. So, I already got the display out of the way, so let's flip it over, and we have two cameras at the back. Thank you. wow, apparently companies can do it. So we do have dual 50 megapixel sensors right here. One is wide and one is ultra wide. They decided to have the sticker cameras, like 2 megapixel macro or whatever. This is a mid-range device coming at around, if I remember correctly, 500 something dollars. Maybe a little bit more depending on a version. Let me actually quickly check the price of it just so I'm not spewing nonsense right here. So we're looking at around, where's the price? Based on GSM Arena, we're looking at about 750 US dollars, 400 pounds or 469 euros. This price discrepancy right here between euros and dollars is quite significant. I don't think that euro is that high over the US dollar. We just make sure. Yeah, like I thought. So in terms of euros to dollars, it's barely any difference. So I'm not sure why there is such a discrepancy. But from what I've heard, this is supposed to be a mid-range device coming at around, like I said, about $500. So the actual US dollar price, like that GSM Arena shows, might not be necessarily the most correct. But it looks like the other two should be roughly around the correct price. Now, anyway, let's go back to the actual phone. So for the price, I would have to say that this phone is really nice. Obviously, you can probably see it borrows a little bit, well, maybe not a little bit, but a lot from like iPhone design. We have the almost like same shape buttons on the sides, both of them. The actual like design of it with the flat edges or sides of the phone, the back even. If you would make this completely like white as an example with an Apple logo, people would confuse it for an iPhone probably. So it does borrow a lot from the aesthetics of an iPhone, but it didn't borrow the most atrocious one, which is a notch. Thank you again. Now, in terms of the internal specs, like I mentioned, we did have a 15 megapixel dual sensors. We have a couple versions of this phone in terms of storage and RAM. So at the very low end, we have 128 gigs with 8 gigs of storage. Then we can bump up the storage to 256. And then we can also bump up the RAM from 8 to 12 gigs with 256 storage. So there's only like 3 versions of it. And all of them are running UFS 3.1 storage, giving you really good read and write speeds. Not as good as what, for instance, iPhone would have, but still it's right at the top with every other like flagship from Android. And in terms of battery life, or just battery size, I'm not exactly sure what the battery life here is. We're looking at a 4,500 mAh battery without a charger, but it should be able to charge at 33 watts. So advertised speeds apparently charges up to 100% in 70 minutes and up to 50% in just 30 minutes. Now these are not the fastest charging speeds, as you probably can tell, but keep in mind this is a mid-range device, and for a mid-range device I would say this is decent enough. I can't complain. Obviously I would probably like my phone to charge a little bit quicker, but for $500, fantastic. And lastly, actually maybe not lastly, but one thing that I didn't mention is the front selfie camera. So the one hole punch right here. This is a 16 megapixel wide sensor. Now with the back cameras you can shoot at 4K 30 frames and 1080p 30 and 60. So unfortunately you're not getting any kind of 4K 60 here. And with the front one you can shoot at 1080p 30 frames. And all this device additionally is being powered by a Snapdragon 778G, which is a 5 GHz phone, obviously, as you would expect from a phone that has been released in the mid of 2022, like almost any other phone. So yeah, if you're looking for the 5G connectivity, Nothing Phone got you covered. And there's not much more to say about this. Obviously, you've probably seen this phone already. The back of it was teased quite frequently, and it is actually a much nicer looking phone in person than it is on video. So if it looks a little bit meh on like the video for you that you're watching right now, or any other one, I do want to stress this: it looks much nicer in person and it feels really nice in hand, though it is a little bit of a chunky phone. If you compare it to at least what I would consider up until a certain point a big phone, which was the Mate 20 Pro when it released like 3 years ago, this to me was a big phone. And in terms of height, you can see that it is basically the same height, if not even actually a little bit taller. And in terms of actual width, you do have, it is much wider. And because my phone, the Mate 20 Pro that I use normally, has curved edges, it also feels a little bit slimmer and a little bit smaller in hand compared to something that has flat screen like this. So yeah, it's an outstanding phone. One thing that personally I would like to see is a smaller version of it, because this one is, at least for my baby hands, a little bit chunky. So that's probably the only thing that I'll have, but still, even with my hands, the phone is outstanding. It's just a, size preference that I have. Other than that, yeah, like I said, this phone is fantastic. And if anybody's looking to pick it up, I don't think you can go wrong with it. It's really nice. And yeah, so with that being said, if you found this overview of the Nothing Phone helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.